evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the WINRAD Broadcasting Service. I am Walter Hartley. Tonight, we bring you a grim accounting. The war with Iran has reached its 25th day. There are claims of peace talks from Washington, fierce denials from Tehran, and behind the scenes, Pakistan is positioning itself as the unlikely broker of this war's first real chance at diplomacy. From our correspondents in Washington and abroad, we bring you the latest. We go first to our Washington bureau and Edward James Whitmore.
The story out of Washington tonight is one of contradiction. President Trump announced early this morning that he has ordered a 5-day postponement of planned American strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure. Writing on his social media platform in block capital letters, the president declared that what he called the tenor and tone of conversations with Tehran over the weekend had convinced him to extend the deadline. He told reporters there are now 15 points of agreement between Washington and Tehran, and that Iran means business and wants to settle. The president named his Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, as participants in the discussions. He had issued an ultimatum over the weekend, threatening to obliterate Iran's electrical grid unless the Strait of Hormuz was reopened to commercial shipping within 48 hours. But Tehran paints an entirely different picture. Iran's foreign ministry issued a flat denial through state-affiliated media, saying there has been no dialogue whatsoever between Tehran and Washington since the war began on February the 28th. Iranian officials dismissed the president's claims as a maneuver designed to drive down oil prices and buy time for further American military planning. Iran's parliament speaker, Mohammad Bagher Zolghadr, called reports of direct negotiations fake news. Sources connected to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps went further still, calling the president deceitful and announcing that special plans are arranged for Tel Aviv and regional allies of the United States. However, and this is significant, Iran's foreign ministry spokesman Esmail Baqai acknowledged that messages had been received from the United States through what he called friendly states requesting negotiations, and that appropriate responses had been given. That is the first official Iranian acknowledgement that any channel of communication exists at all.
Edward, what can you tell us about who is carrying those messages?
Walter, that brings us to the most significant diplomatic development of the day. Pakistan has emerged as the lead mediator in this crisis. According to reporting from the Financial Times, Bloomberg, and NBC News, Pakistan's Army Chief, Field Marshal Asim Munir, spoke directly with President Trump by telephone on Sunday. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif separately spoke with Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian on Monday, conveying what Islamabad called serious concern over the dangerous hostilities in the Gulf region. 4 sources told NBC News that an in-person meeting could be held in the coming days in Islamabad, potentially involving Witkoff and Kushner on the American side and senior Iranian officials, possibly including Parliament Speaker Kalibaf. Pakistan, Turkey, and Egypt are now working together as intermediaries, with Pakistani Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar speaking to his Turkish counterpart Hakan Fidan on Monday. Pakistan hosts no American military bases, has the second largest Shia Muslim population after Iran, maintains a mutual defense pact with Saudi Arabia, and enjoys warm relations with the Trump White House, making it what one diplomat called uniquely positioned as a neutral channel. The White House declined to confirm specifics, saying these are sensitive diplomatic discussions and the United States will not negotiate through the press.
Thank you, Edward. We now go overseas to our foreign affairs correspondent, Theodore Charles Bennett. Theodore, what is the picture from the battlefield tonight?
Thank you, Walter. The bombs have not stopped. The Israeli military announced on Monday evening that it had completed what it called a wide-scale wave of strikes against more than 50 regime infrastructure sites in the Iranian capital of Tehran, including 2 intelligence command centers belonging to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, an Iranian intelligence ministry command center, weapons storage facilities, aerial defense systems, and ballistic missile launch sites. Additional strikes were reported in the cities of Khorramabad, Yazd, Tabriz, Bandar Abbas, Bushehr, Bandar Lenge, and on Chesham Island. United States Central Command reported that since February the 28th, American forces have struck more than 9,000 Iranian targets, destroyed more than 140 Iranian naval vessels, and flown upward of 9,000 combat sorties. Iran is striking back. Early Tuesday morning, Iranian ballistic missiles struck multiple locations in Tel Aviv, damaging buildings and injuring 6 people across 4 separate impact sites. Emergency services reported that none of the injured required hospitalization. A cluster missile from Iran struck the city of Nesher near Haifa, though no injuries were reported there. 20 rocket launches from Lebanon were identified on Tuesday morning. And in a significant move inside Tehran, the Iranian government announced today that Mohammad Bagher Zolghadr, a veteran Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps commander, has been appointed the new Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council. He replaces Ali Larijani, who was killed in an Israeli-American strike last week. The appointment was made by presidential decree with the endorsement of the new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei. Zolghadr is a regime insider who served as deputy commander of the Revolutionary Guards for several years and most recently led the Expediency Discernment Council. His appointment signals the Revolutionary Guards' expanding grip on Iran's wartime decision-making. Iran's health ministry places the country's death toll at more than 1,500. The American-based human rights activists' news agency recorded more than 1,047 civilian dead, including 214 children. In Israel, 18 civilians have been killed and more than 4,700 injured since the war began.
Theodore, what is the wider picture tonight?
Walter, the diplomatic map is shifting beneath the battlefield. In Lebanon, the government took a dramatic step today. Foreign Minister Youssef Raghi declared Iran's ambassador, Mohammad Reza Shaybani, persona non grata, giving him until Sunday, March the 29th, to leave Lebanese territory. The ministry also summoned Lebanon's own ambassador to Iran for consultations, citing what it called Tehran's violation of diplomatic norms. This follows Beirut's earlier decisions to ban Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps activity on Lebanese soil, require visas for Iranian nationals entering the country, and order the expulsion of any individual identified as having ties to the Guard Corps. It is a remarkable break between Lebanon and Iran, driven by the fury of a nation dragged into war by Hezbollah, Iran's proxy, which launched its attacks against Israel on March the 2nd without the consent of the Lebanese government. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar welcomed the decision. Overnight, Israeli forces carried out strikes on several Hezbollah headquarters in Beirut, including the elite Radwan unit and Hezbollah's intelligence directorate. Israel's defense minister has announced that all bridges over the Litani River used by Hezbollah have been destroyed, and that the Israeli military will control the remaining crossings and maintain a security zone up to the Litani until the Hezbollah threat is removed. More than 1,000 people have been killed in Israeli strikes on Lebanon since March the 2nd, including 118 children. Over 1 million Lebanese, roughly 1/6 of the entire nation, have been displaced. In the Gulf, Saudi Arabia intercepted approximately 20 drones targeting its eastern province. Kuwait's air defenses responded to multiple incoming attacks, with alarms sounding at least 7 times in a single night. The United Arab Emirates reported intercepting 7 ballistic missiles and 16 drones on Monday alone. Since the start of the war, more than 350 ballistic missiles and nearly 1,800 drones have been launched toward the Emirates. The head of the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company called the closure of the Strait of Hormuz economic terrorism against every nation. The USS Gerald R. Ford has arrived at Suda Bay, Crete, for maintenance, and the Washington Post reports that 4,500 additional Marines and sailors are being prepared for deployment.
Theodore, thank you. Tonight, we count the cost of 25 days of war. More than 2,000 souls lost across the Middle East. 1,500 in Iran, 1,000 in Lebanon, 18 in Israel, 13 American service members killed in action. Oil at $103 a barrel and climbing again. 11 million barrels of oil lost each day from global supply. A crisis the head of the International Energy Agency says is worse than the 2 oil shocks of the 1970s combined. The Strait of Hormuz remains closed. Pakistan is building a bridge between 2 nations that will not speak to each other. Lebanon has thrown Iran's ambassador out of the country. And in Tehran, a Revolutionary Guard veteran now holds the keys to Iran's national security. In New York, 2 pilots who left Montreal on a Sunday evening never came home. Hold all of them in your prayers tonight, ladies and gentlemen. This is Walter Hartley for the WINRAD Broadcasting Service. And now, from the home front, here is Dorothy Wilson.
Well, good evening, ladies. I know it has been a long day for all of us, and if you are anything like me, you are looking at that pantry right now, wondering what on earth to put together for supper tomorrow that will not break the bank. So tonight, I have got a recipe for you that my grandmother called Tuesday rice, Now, it is nothing fancy, but it will feed 4 people for about $4 and change, and it takes about 30 minutes start to finish. Here is what you will need. 1 cup of long grain white rice, uncooked, 2 tablespoons of butter or whatever cooking fat you have on hand, 1 small onion, diced fine, 2 cloves of garlic, minced, 1 can of diced tomatoes, that is the 14-ounce size, 2 cups of chicken broth, or you can use a bouillon cube dissolved in 2 cups of hot water, 1 teaspoon of paprika, half a teaspoon of salt, a pinch of black pepper, and if you have got some frozen peas in the icebox, about half a cup of those thrown in at the end is just lovely. Now, melt your butter in a heavy skillet or a Dutch oven over medium heat. Toss in the onion and cook it until it goes soft and golden, about 4 or 5 minutes. Add the garlic and the paprika and stir for just 1 minute. You will smell it right away, and it is wonderful. Pour in the rice and stir it around so every grain gets a little coating of that butter. Then add your can of tomatoes with all the juice and your 2 cups of broth. Give it a good stir, bring it up to a boil, then put the lid on and turn the heat down to low. Let it cook for 18 to 20 minutes. Do not peek. I mean it. When the time is up, take the lid off, fluff it with a fork, and fold in those frozen peas if you have them. The heat of the rice will warm them right through. Serve it in bowls, and if you have a little grated cheese, sprinkle some on top. That is a meal, ladies. $4, 30 minutes, and everyone goes to bed with a full belly. Good night, and God bless.